Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you, Meredith.
Yeah, Chris, intro our theme because I don't know anything about it still after your whole PowerPoint.
So for those of you who do not know the movie Space Jam, our theme is about a new Vista legacy, which is funnily enough the Space Jam Legacy, the new movie that's coming out. If you have not seen the original Space Jam, please go see it. It is very funny. It is cartoon. It has Michael Jordan. It has a whole bunch of random things that don't make sense, but it's still funny. But in that same like statue, we are taking it to be like we're creating a legacy with our binders. So we're gonna continue that, like we're basically continuing our legacy of what we do every year for the next person. So like even though like this movie and the old Space Jam movie are years apart, it's still a legacy. Though most people don't really like, most people are like, it's a movie, it's not as important, but what we do is important. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to create a legacy binder.
So these are our objectives because we're being official this time. After this webinar, you will hopefully learn, you'll be able to reflect on the legacy binder you read, or if you didn't ever get one, maybe stuff you wished you would have learned going in, learn legacy binder basics and create some tangible strategies and steps to create or improve your own legacy binder. So we thought we'd start out with a discussion because I mean, I don't know if everybody got a legacy binder or what the situation was. I see some head shaking. So yeah, there's just all these questions. We could start with, did everybody get a legacy binder? You can throw it in the chat or you can unmute. And that'd be great. We got a thumbs up.
For the record, we got a legacy binder thanks to the previous Vista leader. Meredith also contributed to the Vista leader, to the legacy binder, but it was more Dylan, who, for those who don't know, Dylan was a former Vista leader who worked with us, who's now currently working at CNCS.
No binder. Wow, Junior just rocking and rolling. Sierra, I think your legacy binder was made by more your supervisor than whatever binder she gave you seemed official because she showed it to Charisma got one. Mm-hmm. Balloons. Sierra's having a party and I love it. Okay, sorry. I'll stop being distracting to myself. Good. For those of you who did get one, was it helpful or was it like just exhausting to read? Did you learn stuff? Yes, no.
I can talk a little on mine. A lot of what I'm doing is new in my role specifically. So like I can look at certain things, but a lot of it is not applicable to what I'm doing this year. So
thanks for sharing, Mitch.
Same with Mitch, where the binder is for, Vistas have specific roles at the organization. And so the stuff that I am doing is not the same thing that David did 2 years ago. So I'm relying a lot more on my own knowledge of the organization from my volunteer. When I started, I was relying on what I knew from volunteer more than what we got from the binder, which took a little while to get because they had to find the password to that section of the website.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I bet a lot of stuff this year, you're all doing a lot of new stuff, being virtual. So like that probably wasn't documented at all. So it probably might not have been in the binder. But Charisma said in the chat, her binder was good. It was top notch. She still uses it to this day. We love that.
I will say that our legacy binder was a lot. There was a lot to read, but like it was the same, other than the same token, it was still very useful. Like I still go back to it whenever I can, because there's like, especially for like passwords, because it's just like, if you don't remember how to get into like Cvent or like some other site that we use for all of our things, it's like trying to like guesstimate passwords is hard.
Yeah, don't do it. And then you get locked out.
Yeah, don't do.
And
Yeah,
then
and then
you
it makes
call
it worse.
people. Yeah. Yeah, I like Sierra's comment. Definitely helpful in the beginning. Especially with like process guides and screenshots, like how you do certain things step by step is important if like you have no context for it. And or you could be like Olivia and get one that's extremely not helpful. I'm really sorry. Yeah. But now you get to make one and make it better for anyone else in the future. It's so great. What can you drop in the chat, Olivia, what specifically was not helpful? Or you can speak if you want.
Yeah, sorry, my dog is freaking out. That's why I'm not unmuting. But well, I am. But anyway, yeah, it just wasn't. Let me drop it in the chat.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Olivia. Sorry, I put you on the spot there. Cool. If anyone didn't get one, June, you didn't get one, maybe what's one thing you would have wanted to learn at the beginning when you just started that would have been like super helpful that you didn't have to learn by yourself or from experience? If you have ideas on that, you can throw that in the chat.
I'm sorry, talking is easier than typing for me. I apologize.
No worries.
I think I would have loved to have had one my very first year, but going in even to a new service site as a third year, I kind of had a feel for what I was doing. You know, M&A does such a great job of preparing us with calendars and notebooks and how to write stuff and what you're supposed to do. Those pieces were already there. And it was just a matter of picking up things. And I did get a lot of material from my service site folks on how to navigate their systems. I had all of that, but there wasn't anything that they've not had anybody in my position that was there for any time to put anything together. So I don't know. It's kind of, you don't know what you don't know. And it's kind of hard to know what I was missing, if anything. I felt very prepared for the basic stuff that you guys needed. So
I think what my favorite part from Dylan's legacy binder, because I had that whacking in as a Vista leader, was Dylan's binder that he spent umpteen hours working on. It was wild. But I think my favorite part that he did is he gave context around, you know, so we do social media stuff, right? So it was, this is our intention for this. You know, we're trying to expand the Vista reach. We're trying to get to other Vista members, you know, that kind of stuff. And then he also gave the day-to-day, you know, we built a schedule for, you know, he and his fellow Vista leader did, you know, on weeks, off weeks. And this is kind of what we did. And here's all of our resources that we pulled from that. And I think it was helpful that he gave kind of the broader context, but then he also gave the nitty gritty, like, this is what we did. Here's that schedule that you can take and shift it, which was dope. And I think that was what I liked the most about his binder.
Yeah, I liked it because I'm an anxious person. So like, even though Meredith rolled stuff out and then I was like, oh gosh, I still have like questions about that. Like I could go read through the section in the binder. And if I still had questions, I was like validated. I was like, okay, this seems like a real question. I can ask it now. So that was nice for me. And thank you, Olivia, for sharing in the chat. She said it wasn't super relevant to her work and didn't give a lot of context to what she does on a day-to-day basis in her Vista role. Yeah, and it had a lot of plans for future initiatives that, you know, COVID really axed. Yeah, and it would have been nice if there was more info or process guides on, you know, stuff that happens all the time, like in your role, like social media or posting stuff like that. So thanks for sharing, Olivia. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for sharing out. It's a good start to our webinar. We love a good reflection. If you want to go to the next slide, Meredith.
So we kind of discussed this a little bit of like binder, what binder? So basically it's just like, for those who did have a binder, that's awesome. Like once you get closer to the end of the year, you can just basically take that binder and continue to expand on that binder, like adding any extra information that you think that might be helpful for the next person. Like making sure that like if you have updated contact information for different points of contact, just keep on like expanding the binder that you currently have. But then if you didn't have a binder, that's great too, because then you can make a binder for someone in the for the person after you. And honestly, all these insights you guys had about like, I wish I had more information about like long-standing projects or things like social media, like those are great things for someone who may be doing that your position next year. So then that way they're not like floundering around trying to figure out what to do next. Or what even Skylar said in the chat, where it's like the top 10 things you should know for the first months of your term. That's an important thing too, because like those first 2 months are probably the most crazy you are as a Vista, because you're just getting into a new position. You're learning about the organization, you're learning how to do your job, but you're also having to do everything else on top of that. So I think like making sure if you are going to be creating a digital binder, having those things would be great for the next person after you. Also, just as a general note, I kind of mentioned this a little bit, is that before you leave, make sure you pass off any contacts that you have made through your course of the service year to the person within the organization who may be taking your position until they hire another Vista position, or you may be transferring your contact information to that person because they are probably going to be doing your position in the interim. Making that transition the sooner the better is really helpful, because I made this mistake where I forgot to like forward my contacts to the school counselor, and I was still getting emails from like all the different like all the admissions officers at like different schools, and I'm like, you need to contact this person. I am no longer with the school. Please contact, like making sure that you do that beforehand, so you're not getting a mess of emails that are not like, it's cool to know that you have like you have these contacts later, but like at the same time, making sure that you transition to the next person is always helpful. Next slide, please, Meredith. So also, yeah, so now let's actually talk about the actual binder. So there are two ways you can go with this. One being either physical or digital. Physical and digital, like the main thing is with both of these, making sure that your supervisor does have access to either the physical copy or a digital copy. And with the physical, you can make actual copies of things that you did during the course of your service year. So being able to put it in a physical place and having it physically holding in your hand. I know for a lot of people that is a good way, is one way that they learn, just being able to like physically see what they're looking at, and also being able to like hold on to a binder and saying, all right, this is what I need to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And this is how I'm going to do it. Always make sure that you have any like examples of your work and putting it into the binder. Organize it by however you would wish. So like having a tab for paperwork, having a tab for contacts, having a contact for passwords. Passwords are a little bit interesting because we shouldn't like be, leaving passwords in a binder. But on that same token, making sure that like it's not, making sure that if you do create a physical binder, make sure that's in a safe and secure location. Now, if you're going digital, it's a little bit different, where your organization may be using Google Drive or using Microsoft Office or using any sort of like platform where you can like share like files over the internet or via online. Making sure that you have an organized folder with your position, or basically similar to a physical binder, having different folders that outline different parts of your position. So again, having a folder for like email drafts, having a folder with different contact information, having emails on like different paperwork that you use during the course of your service year, making and just keeping it organized in that like shared platform, whether that be Google Drive or Microsoft SharePoint, whatever have you. And again, that main thing of also just making sure that your supervisor does have access to that at any given point, because they will have to pass it on to the next person. Next slide, please, Meredith. So what really kind of goes into your binder, and I've kind of been alluding to this throughout this entire, like my 2 slides that I've been talking, where it's like your binder should contain all information that your organization needs to do your position. So this kind of basically means in basic terms, putting in as much as a step-by-step guide on how to of your day-to-day basis. What are you doing during the day, especially during the day in this position? Are you answering emails? Are you talking, like emailing contacts? Are you creating, like start working on events? Like what are you doing during that day? And also making sure like having like examples of emails for clients, having examples of budgets for events, and even having like strategies for recruiting volunteers and any other major things that you do for your organization. Just having those examples for the next person makes it so much easier. But the main thing, or a good rule of thumb for the binder is it should contain the 4 P's, which are, next slide.
Drum roll. People, process, paperwork, and policies. Yeah. So honestly, thinking about like what I do day to day, it seems very overwhelming to try to like document that or even write that down. I don't even know what I do day to day. Just kidding, Meredith. I totally do. Yeah, but so a good place to start is with these 4 Ps. So if you're like, what do I even put in here? What do I do day to day? Have at least these 4 sections. So people, any contacts you have, maybe you're sitting on a committee or you're in a representative for your host site in a certain group or regular meeting, put all of those meetings and those people and your contacts in there, so that if it's just you from your organization who knows those people, they'll be documented somewhere and people you work with can know how to reach them. Next is processes. So like any stuff you do, this is the day-to-day stuff. If you're doing social media, like what's your process of scheduling that, going about that, coming up with ideas? What is the content you need to post? That's just an example if that's part of your role. Anything you do day to day, try to write down your process for it. Even if it's like in your head, you can write down like, this is how I went about doing this, and then list some examples or like screenshots of your examples. And then paperwork, any paperwork you make for your events or your presentations or whatever, it's nice to have those. And this is where having digital binder is handy, because like if it's a physical binder, yeah, you can print out all of your PowerPoints or whatever, but it's nice if you have like a digital binder in Google Drive or something, and you can just have a folder that says, here is all of the like PowerPoints or presentations or resources that I personally made. Or you can have one that's like, here's this paperwork that was given to me that was really helpful. So having a folder where you can just like dump all of that is nice. That is one part of our binder that I like, is like the stuff with all the screenshots and like specifics, like here's the thing that I made that was helpful. That was one thing that was most helpful to me in my legacy binder that I read. And the 4th P is policies. So like anything that you had to navigate through and it's like, oh, learning this policy was really helpful, or like if this situation comes up, these are all the steps to go about how to handle this, or like who I contact or where to direct this, is helpful, especially if you're like in your Vista role, you deal with a lot of external people or like brokering new community partnerships, stuff like that. I find that helpful. Or if you're like pretty integral to how a program like specifically runs, and like connecting people and stuff like that, like how all those steps flow would be really good in the policy section. Okay. Next slide, Mary. Why the legacy binder is important. It's kind of a weird year because obviously our program is ending. So, you know, like what is legacy is up in the air. Like our program might not have the same Vista there next year. And some of you, that's the case, you know already probably whether your host site plans to get another Vista for your specific role, or they said maybe we're not going to get a Vista next year, or we're going to get new Vistas, but their roles might be a little different than yours. So if you already know some of that knowledge, your legacy binder might look a little different. But even if you know your host site might not have a Vista, all of the stuff you do is still really, really important, because if you're not there doing it, it's probably, all those roles are probably going to fall somewhere else within the organization or within your program, right? So like, just keeping that in mind, you know, boxing up all of this handy dandy stuff you do and all of this really important work that you all do will be nice, so that all that work can continue serving those communities, and it won't like, you know, get shifted to the side, or like people might not know exactly what you were doing or how to do it. So it might, you know, get dropped for a little bit. So that's why creating this legacy binder is super important, even if you know there might not be a Vista yet next year, or their Vista role might be really different from what you do, because you have a lot of knowledge already about like what working in your organization is like. And like, that's a lot of onboarding. That's a lot of the stuff that's important for onboarding. Like, what is your host site doing? How do you fit into that context? How was your experience as a Vista at that organization? All that stuff is still super important, even if like your day-to-day won't look like what the next Vista's day-to-day looks like. Yeah. Thanks for that chat, Marina. I'm reading and talking at the same time. It's hard. Yeah, okay. So now I just want to do a little bit of brainstorming. We've been talking at you for a long time. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna set a timer. Let's do, I don't know. I'll start with 2 minutes. Awkward silences are hard, but I'll start with 2 minutes. In these 2 minutes, I want you to brainstorm like a concrete, actual next step you can take to start working on your legacy binder, whether that is like, oh, this is the one thing I really want to document. Like, this is the thing I need to do. Write that down, and like maybe some ideas how you're going to start documenting that. Or if you already got a binder, being like, oh, this section was what really needed improving the most, and like what you want to add to that binder. And then key feature, I'm going to want 3 share outs at the end of this. So let's get these ideas rolling, and hopefully we can share, because, you know, conversation's great. So 2 minutes are starting now. Get your brainstorming going. Start. All right, there's about 10 seconds left, so wrap up that thought. Okay, and time. So, can I get 3 share outs from 3 different people? Just one example of what you are going to put in your legacy binder or a step you're going to take.
I can go. I want to put in my legacy binder stuff about social media because it's kind of like a big process. So probably like how to find like the content that we post, how to create it, like how to like type it out, like what to say, and like how we schedule it and just like that type of stuff. Because it's kind of tedious, and I feel like it took Olivia and I a little bit to really get the hang of it. Yeah.
Genius. And now you're a well-oiled machine. You want to make sure you
Yes.
pass that on. Awesome, thank you. Who is our second share out? I know you all are brilliant and have great ideas.
I can
I'd love
go.
to hear them. Thank you.
One thing that was super helpful for me that the previous Vista did was just make a calendar of basically here's what my year looks like, and then bolding things that would probably come up again for me in my Vista year, just to kind of give me a little bit of a broader idea of where my year was heading and kind of outline a roadmap. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Skylar. That's a great thing to put in there.
I'll share. Make a list of all the contact people I've worked with and what we worked on together. List the events that I put together that was good, what was good and what needs to be changed if they do it again. Passwords along with like office holidays, hours, any kind of office information. That should be onboarding, but not necessarily happen. Ideas that I had that I didn't get a chance to work on.
Yeah, thanks, Roxanne. And I think that's a good point too, is like Vista onboarding is sometimes like super crazy. I think some host sites are like, oh, that's great, we're gonna have a Vista here, they're gonna be so helpful, they get to do all this stuff, and then like there's just a lot thrown at you and like your onboarding process isn't great. So I've heard that a lot from various Vistas, not just you all, but other people I've talked to. So yeah, just general stuff that you're like, man, this would have been great if I knew how to do this when I was onboarded, but nobody told me. Yeah. All righty. And Kim says in the chat, leaving list of projects.
I was just commenting on what Roxanne said about the things she didn't get to. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because this year is flying by. We only have 4 months left, people. So cool. All righty. Well, are there any questions about the Legacy Binder? You can feel free to unmute or throw them in the chat. I know this is pretty fast. I don't think we have a question slide, but you know, always good to throw it out there. We love questions.
And we usually have the answer.
Well, I usually can talk like I know the answer.
And if we don't know the answer, we find someone who has the answer and then we relay that information to you all.
Yes, Meredith has all the answers. I just pretend like I know stuff sometimes, and then I go ask Meredith.
And it's like, no, you don't.
In any case, great. Okay. Well, we have a few housekeeping items. While we have everybody here, we'd like to put this on your radar. Feel free to keep dropping any questions in the chat you have. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
never mind. Meredith has a thing.
It's me first. And Meredith does have a thing because Meredith just did a bunch of data polls and I want to share it with you. But actually, we're going to go back just for a second because I want to put a finer point on this. Even if your host site is leaving the Vista program, they're not having another Vista, be thoughtful about how you're leaving that legacy, because that's really how you build sustainability in an organization. And it's so easy to just be like, August 15th, peace out, I'm out, which is fine. But also, if you really, that's the way that you build capacity, is that you make sure that staff handoff is good, and that you make sure that, we're continuing the good work. Because you guys are all super dope and you're working on really critical things for your org. But we serve in nonprofits, right? So we know that they're super busy and understaffed, and everything is wild right now with COVID, more so than normal with nonprofits, which is wild. So yeah, be sure that you make that handoff really smoothly. Talk to your supervisor about what, who's taking on what. Be thoughtful about it, because it's really, really critical. And it's super easy to kind of drop that at the last minute. So yeah, just finer point on that. All right, so recently I did some data polls. So this is only through half of our service year, but I wanted to highlight the work that you guys have been doing thus far, and really celebrate it, because I think that so often we plant a lot of seeds and we very rarely get to celebrate the success. And so I think that we should take some time and specifically celebrate it. So for your last 2 QPRs, this is only halfway through. It's not your 3rd QPR, which, secret housekeeping spoiler, is due Friday, so you should complete it. But regardless, so this is the first 2 QPRs, but our cohorts leveraged more than $25,000 in resources for our various sites. We've built the capacity of more than 500 organizations. And I think the one that I've looked at and meditated on more is that you've served 40,000 people, and the cat is killing me right now. But you've served 40,000 people throughout the state of Michigan, which is what we all aim for, right? Is we're here to serve people, and we're here to serve others that may not otherwise be served. And so I want to just highlight that and thank you guys for your service and your work, because I know being a Vista is hard. Living in a global pandemic is hard. Being in a Vista in a double, global pandemic is like double, triple, quintuply hard. And we know that and recognize that. But I also just want to say thank you for the service that you're doing for your nonprofits and for the people that you're supporting and serving. Because that's the trick, right? And that's kind of what gets you through when it's really tough and when life is hard. I think going back to, our cohort served more than 40,000 people is pretty impactful. So thank you. That's all I really got, but I just wanted to really highlight that and make sure that you guys know that you're appreciated, because you really are. I shared it with our board the other day, and they wanted to pass on their appreciation as well. That, again, it's a big deal. And sometimes it feels like you're just a little Vista and it doesn't actually matter, and like you don't get paid any money and it's the worst, which I hear that. But know that what you do is important, and know that your service is important both to your nonprofit, but also to the people in your communities. And 40,000 people were supported by us, which is pretty dope. So yeah, so thank you. That's really all I wanted to say is thank you, because you guys are all incredible. And our team is really grateful to be able to work with you guys. So thanks.
Thanks, Meredith. We love data. We love numbers validating us. We're here for it. Okay. Yes, Meredith really spoiled my first bullet point here, which is that quarterly progress report number 3 is due this Friday, May 7th at midnight. And it's, as you were all familiar, we use a whole other program and it closes at midnight. So like, it's really important you get it in by Friday, 11:59 p.m. So yes, so please do that. If you're having a lot of trouble, like reach out as soon as possible so that we can try to, it's easier for us to do stuff beforehand rather than after the thing closes. So like, seriously, text us, email us, hit us up if you're like, bro, what did I even do these past 3 months? All right, yeah. Okay, and then we have one upcoming field trip planned, and it is on June 9th, and it is the ACEs program, not program, you know what I'm saying. The Adverse Childhood Experiences, the initiative is the Michigan ACE Initiative. So they'll explain a little bit about what ACEs are, some of like the data and the science and the information about that, and then like how to carry that into your work and create more trauma-informed spaces and stuff like that. So that's what that's going to look like. And then we also have 2 other events geared towards helping all of you prep for life after your Vista year. We're partnering with Tristan Layfield, he works on resumes and helping people get all their resumes and application stuff in order to apply for awesome new jobs. So he is partnering with us, and we're doing 2 sessions. One of the sessions on May 18th is about specifically resume tailoring and like how do you do that coming from a Vista year, because it's hard, because like a lot of people translating your service in a resume is really tricky, because it's not like I'm going from this job to this job and they're like similar. So that's what that session will be about. And then the next one on May 19th, that one, it can be more like, it's more tailored to applying to grad schools or anything in academia after that. I see your question, Lindsay. It does not. I think Meredith's typing out something in the chat to elaborate.
I'll unmute really quick because I'm a slow typer and the cat is trying to eat my hands. He's the worst. Yeah, so not officially, but if you're struggling to attend other field trips, we can talk about it for sure. We would really, really highly recommend that you attend this though, if you're at all looking at, you know, whatever you're planning after Vista, if you're planning to either get into workforce or get into graduate school, including things like law school, that will really cover both your strategy to get in, which we know that a lot of you are in. BT Dubs, kudos to all the law school entrants that are crushing it. But
including Meredith.
Knowing how to tailor it. Thanks, Dixie. That was not like a humble brag or anything, just to be clear. But also how to tailor your law or your resume throughout the graduate experience and beyond, and how do you kind of balance that? Because that's weird, and I don't know about you guys. It's kind of a new thing. So we would really, really highly recommend that you go to one of the two. The other carrot on this too is that if you attend, you get a free 30-minute individual consultation with Tristan after. So if you're like, man, I think my resume is pretty dope, but you know, I want to ask him about this one specific thing, you should show up, because then you get a free consultation with a really smart dude. So again, highly recommend that you guys really put some time in and attend.
Thanks, Meredith. Told you she has all the answers. Cool. That's all I have to say. Next slide, Meredith. Okay, next thing is we are planning the end of year celebration, which should be a really fun time. So we have some dates for your calendar. So please put these holds on your calendar. I know the end of the year is super busy, so if you could drop these in your calendar so you like don't double book us. First date is August 3rd, and that's going to be roughly the morning, so, you know, 8 to noon. And this is where all the groups are going to present your human-centered design projects and like what you did, and you can share out to the rest of the cohort. The next date is August 4th. That's going to be the afternoon time. We don't have exact plans yet, but it's going to be like a fun cohort bonding. And if you have ideas you want to share out, definitely send them to me. I'm working on putting together a focus group so we can get input from you all and not just plan to do something boring that none of you actually want to do, because we want to make it something that is for you all, by you all, that you all want. So email me, text me, call me, beat me, whatever the Kim Possible intro is, do that. Great. The next date is August 13th. That's a Friday the 13th. So we are a bit risky. We're risking it there. It's tentative. So we're hopefully, depending on, you know, how many people are vaccinated and comfortable with doing an in-person thing. If you do come, we arrange all that so your mileage can be reimbursed, and like we pay you back for traveling if you would need to travel to get to Lansing. So just put that on your calendar, tentative. And if it is in person, I think it'll be, would that be like half a day, Meredith? What time should they block out? Shrug, put it in your calendar.
I would block the whole day and just kind of keep it, likely it's afternoon, evening, right? Again, it's all pending COVID. We don't know what August looks like. We don't know what June looks like. But yeah, so put it on your calendar, and hopefully it would be in Lansing. Likely it would be somewhere local-ish in Lansing. We still would have to kind of figure out what that looks like in terms of COVID regulations. Somewhere outdoors in Lansing.
Yeah.
And yeah, to put a finer to, or to repeat what Mara said, we'll cover mileage. We're gonna, kind of do what it takes to be accessible to everybody. So if you have ideas for that too, let us know. We're working to make it as accessible to everybody as we can.
Yeah. Cool. All right, next slide, Meredith. I know, lots of housekeeping, the most fun part of our webinars. Okay, as I said earlier, we only have 4 months left, and I want you all to be mindful of how many sick days and vacation days you have remaining, because being a Vista is hard and you don't make any money, so you might as well take every single one of your hours and days that you have. So on the first slide of your timesheet, it should be calculated to be subtracting all of the hours you've taken off so far. So it'll have how many you have remaining left. So, take that divided by 8. Oh, I have 5 days left and only 4 months. So I need to be taking at least a sick day every month or something, so do the math, take your days, take your vacation time. Don't let them sneak up on you. Also, there are rules about how many you can take in a row. We're pretty flexible, but keep in mind, probably don't take off the last 2 whole weeks of your service year. Please don't. If yours doesn't auto calculate there, let me know. I'll work on the math. I fixed a lot of them before, so I'm pretty averagely versed at Excel. Meredith's great at it.
That's false. But if your sick days, or if you're looking at it and you're like, this is weird, it's not doing anything, let us know. We can give you a formula to go insert into that line and it'll calculate everything. So we should be in good shape for that. But take a look at it, because if you're like, man, I've used some and I still have 80 in that line, perhaps something's wrong. Just take a look.
And or if you're in your second or third service year, those add up. So if you didn't use them all last year, you probably had more this year. So yeah, and I might just send out updated hours remaining left, because I bet a lot of them may or may not be incorrect. So I'll send that out. I'll take that on. Last housekeeping bullet point is that we are on to our second round of M&A Vista blog posts. So you all did one earlier in the year. Now we're working through your second blog posts. Not a lot. A handful of you have already done one, so I really appreciate all of that. It's alphabetical, so if you want a vague idea of where you are, Delicia is up next week, and that's where we are in the alphabet. Alphabetical by first name, that is. So, or I know you all are on their website all the time, but if you forgot mnavista.org, there's a whole blog schedule on there with all the dates that your all blogs are due to us. So I know you're on there all the time, so you probably know that it's there. But if you didn't, it's a good place to check that out. And that's all I have. Meredith, Chris, is there anything I missed?
No, you covered everything in terms of housekeeping.
Yeah, Mara, you're crushing it in housekeeping.
Thanks,
Again,
I'm great at talking.
we're headed to the last. You are great at talking. We're headed into the last third of the year, so be mindful of that. If you're heading into graduate school or anything like that, and you're like, man, I don't know when that starts. That might be an overlap with Vista service. Let me know. Talk to us. We can often make it work out and make sure that you get, you can succeed in Vista school or Vista service and in graduate school. But again, let us know if there's instances like that. Often, it's a pretty good rule of thumb. The earlier you talk to us about any questions or any problems you might have, the better things are, almost always. And the less sleep I lose over making sure that you guys are okay. So let us know if we can do anything to help and support. Again, this is kind of it's been a tough year. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Make sure you're taking sick days. Make sure you're taking mental health days. Use it or lose it. We don't pay you enough to not take your sick days and your vacation days. So please use them because it's really critical. And we want to make sure that you guys are the best possible versions of yourselves, which often means taking vacation and taking time to yourselves, which is really hard. And it's very much do as I say, not as I do, but you should prioritize it for sure. All right.
And we will be sending out this PowerPoint. So if you missed any of those dates, we'll send a follow-up email and you can go through the slides. And please, please, please put those holds on your calendar. I think that's my last note. So 5 minutes to spare. We won't hold you any longer. Give you back. Take a little break. Thanks for coming, everybody. It was good to see everyone.
It was really great to see everybody.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Stay well, stay safe.